Hello viewers, hello students. You're welcome to a brand new video, a brand new lesson. This is English with Dexter, and I am Dexter, your English language instructor. Today, our topic will be the phrase in English language. In our previous lesson, we looked at the clause. And if you missed that video on the clause, please subscribe to my channel and go and watch the video. Today, we'll be looking at the phrase. Recall that phrases and clauses are two very important elements in English grammar. So we shall be differentiating these two concepts in today's video. So without further ado, let's look at the definition of a phrase. What exactly is a phrase? Now, a phrase refers to a group of words which has no finite verb. A group of words which has no finite verb. Recall that a clause also refers to a group of words. However, in the case of a clause, there must be a finite verb. What makes a clause is the presence of a finite verb. Now, conversely, what makes a phrase is the absence of a finite verb. Now, in case you have forgotten what a finite verb is, we defined a finite verb in our previous lesson as a verb that agrees or works with a subject in a particular sentence. A subject is the doer, the performer, or the instigator of an action. Now, the finite verb is a verb that works with that subject. For a verb to be finite, it must have a subject that it agrees with to make it finite. Now, a clause must have a finite verb to be called a clause. Similarly, a phrase must have no finite verb to be called a phrase. And that's the basic difference between a clause and a phrase. Now, also, a phrase is found within a clause, but cannot have a clause within it. A phrase is found within a clause, but cannot have a clause within it. Why? Because a phrase cannot be independent, because it has no finite verb, so it cannot be independent. And that is why it has to come within a clause. It has to be part of a clause to complete the entire sense. But you cannot have a clause within a phrase, because a phrase is not independent, and so you cannot have a clause within a phrase. A phrase can only come within a clause to complete the entire structure, but you cannot have a clause within a phrase, because a phrase has no finite verb and the clause has a finite verb. Therefore, a clause cannot come within a phrase, but a phrase can come within a clause to complete the entire structure. So it's important you know the differences between a clause and a phrase. While a clause must have a finite verb, a phrase has no finite verb. And while a phrase can be found within a clause cannot be found within a phrase. Now, these are the basic differences between phrases and clauses. Now, let's look at some examples of phrases. If you look at this expression here, the phrase is underlined. Playing video games is all he does. Playing video games is all he does. The phrase is underlined. Playing video games. It is a phrase because it does not have a finite verb. Now, this word playing is not a verb. Here, it is a gerund. That is a verbal noun. So it functions as a noun. Although it has ing, it is not a progressive verb, but it functions as a gerund. That is a verbal noun. It's a noun in this context. So the entire structure here is a noun phrase. Okay? Playing video games. Yes. Something is all he does. Something is all he does. What is the name of that thing? Playing video games. And so this is a noun phrase. Now let's look at Another example, John likes eating fried rice. John likes eating fried rice. You can see the phrase is underlined as well, eating fried rice. Similarly, this is not a verb, it is a gerund. That's a verbal noun because it functions as a noun in these contexts, eating fried rice. And the entire expression that is underlined is a noun phrase because there is no finite verb. There is no verb agreeing with any particular subject in this underlined expression. And so it is a phrase. It's a noun phrase because it functions like a noun that is providing a name. John likes something. What does John like? What is the name of the thing that John likes? That is eating fried rice. And so it functions as a noun phrase. Now let's look at another example. He called her a, a bad woman. He called her a bad woman. As you can see, the phrase a bad woman is underlined. Now, it's a phrase because there is no verb at all, no finite verb here. He called her something. What's the name of that thing? A bad woman. So it's a noun phrase because it functions like a noun. It behaves like a noun by providing a name. He called her something. What's the name of that thing? A bad woman. So this underlined expression is a noun phrase. Now let's look at this example. He is a man of great wealth. He is a man of great wealth. As you can see, the phrase of great wealth is underlined. It is a phrase because there is no finite verb, as you can see, and it is part of the entire clause because the entire sentence is an independent clause. And like I told you, a phrase can be found within a clause, but you cannot have a clause within this underlined expression. No, but the phrase itself can be found within the entire sentence, which is a clause. Okay? Now, it is an adjectival phrase. That is, this underlined expression is an adjectival phrase. Why? Because it is qualifying the noun man. Of course, you know that adjectives qualify nouns. Now, of great wealth is qualifying this man. It's telling you more about the man. And the man is a noun. So that makes this underlined expression an adjectival phrase. Let's look at another example here. Okay. I consider him an intelligent young man. I consider him an intelligent young man. As you can see, the phrase is underlined. Intelligent young is our phrase. It's underlined. It's a phrase because it's a group of words without a finite verb. It is also an adjectival phrase because it is qualifying the man. It's telling you more about the man. And man is a noun. And we know that adjectives qualify nouns or pronouns. And so, intelligent young is an adjectival phrase. Let's look at another example here. We have some young men like chocolates. Some young men like chocolates. As you can see, the phrase is underlined, some young. It's a phrase because there is no finite verb here. Okay? It's also an adjectival phrase because it's qualifying the men. You could just say men like chocolates. Okay? But what kind of men? Okay? So we have some young men. So this some young is telling you more about the men. It's telling you the category of the men. And so this is also an adjectival phrase. Let's look at more examples. First one we have here, he talks too fast. He talks too fast. Now, too fast is our phrase and it's underlined. It's a phrase because there is no finite verb. A group of words without a finite verb. In this context, it functions as an adverbial phrase because it is modifying the verb talks, okay, telling you the manner, how he talks, okay, so it becomes an adverbial phrase. Another example we have here: Harry walks like a wrestler. Harry walks like a wrestler. As you can see, our phrase is underlined, like a wrestler. It's a phrase because it has no finite verb. A group of words without a finite verb. And it forms part of the entire clause. Don't forget, the entire sentence is an independent clause. And we said a phrase can be found within, okay, a clause. Yes, the entire clause. But within this underlined expression, you cannot have a clause here. Okay, don't forget that. So this is also an adverbial phrase because it is modifying the verb walks. Don't forget that adverbs modify verbs. Okay, so Harry walks. How does he walk? Like a wrestler. So it's modifying walks, and that is why it's an adverbial phrase, the underlying expression. Let's look at the last example. I want to see you as soon as possible. I want to see you as soon as possible. Now the phrase is underlined, as soon as possible. It's underlined, it's our phrase. It's a phrase because there is no finite verb, as you can see. Now, it is also found within the entire expression, which is a clause. Don't forget, a phrase can be found within a clause, but you cannot have a clause within a phrase. Don't forget that, okay? Now, it is an adverbial phrase of time, okay? Time, because if you say, I want to see you, when? When? What time? Okay? As soon as possible. So it's adverbial phrase of time, okay? Yeah, it's a phrase because there is no finite verb. So majorly that's how you can identify phrases. When you see a group of words without a finite verb, you know it's a phrase. But if it has a finite verb, you understand that that will be a clause. And today we've looked at different examples of phrase. We know that the phrase can be found within the clause. As you can see, the phrase is found within the clause, but you cannot have a clause within the phrase. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. If you enjoyed the lesson, please leave a comment below. And if you have topics that you'd like me to treat, feel free to notify me and I'll gladly do that for you. Once again, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and also like and share my videos. And don't forget to smash the notification bell to be notified anytime I upload a brand new video. So thank you so much for being there, students and viewers. Until next time, bye-bye.